The last chapter ended with Ira getting caught in the Pygmies' trap, and as an attack, they turned on the stove top on the table she was carrying, trying to burn her face. Will Ira be able to avoid the impending danger? Let's find out. We continue the story in chapter 172, titled Those Pygmies Are Scary, where the fire continues to creep towards Ira's hair. Momo shouted that she should unravel her hair so the fire won't reach her face, but she couldn't do it. Fortunately, Okarun came to the rescue, and using a kitchen knife, he cut off her burning hair. Okarun apologized to her because he had to cut her hair, so she replied not to apologize because he had saved her. Meanwhile, Momo noticed there were gas tanks in this area, so if they weren't careful, those might explode. She handed Ira a kitchen knife and told her to cut her tangled hair, and she would take care of the fires. While Ira was cutting her hair, the Pygmies suddenly brought out knife catapults again, and they launched knives toward Okarun and Ira, but Momo easily protected Okarun while Ira just kicked them away. Okarun told Momo that they still couldn't see the Pygmies, so he just asked how many they were fighting there, while Ira continued cutting her tangled hair. Momo replied that there were millions of Pygmies around them, and there was no way they could defeat all of them. Some Pygmies started climbing up Okarun's legs, so Momo pointed this out to him. Suddenly, Okarun grabbed his clothes and started taking them off while telling Momo to step aside, which made Momo wonder why. After Okarun removed his long sleeves, he swung it on the floor to try to shake off the Pygmies. While Ira continued deflecting the knives, she praised him for his idea. However, his plan was quickly nullified because the Pygmies easily sewed his long sleeve to the floor, which worried him and irritated Momo about what he was doing there. It turned out Ira had copied Okarun, so her coat met the same fate, which annoyed Momo even more. Unfortunately, the Pygmies also started sewing Okarun's pants to the floor, which worried him, while Ira's sleeves were now sewn to her coat, which was also sewn to the floor, making her shout that this wasn't ordinary knitting speed. Because the Pygmies had rooted the two in place, they followed up with a barrage of knife catapults, but thankfully, even while fighting, Momo managed to protect Okarun, while Ira used her hair as a shield. However, Momo couldn't stop some Pygmies at Okarun's side, so they managed to send needles at him, making both Okarun and Ira cry out in pain. Ira shouted that Momo needed to protect them from behind too, so the fighting Momo apologized and explained that she was handling a lot on her end as well. Momo commented that what was happening here was nonsense because the Pygmies kept emerging endlessly, and soon she thought this was because of the creepy woman Koki. She thought that woman was using the Pygmies to attack them. She called her a bastard and said she must be hiding somewhere, but she couldn't tell where her aura was because of the sheer number of Pygmies. Momo started running towards Okarun while explaining that in other words, that woman knew she would be in danger if attacked, and she was hiding because she was the weak point. Okarun and Ira's clothes were gradually being sewn to the floor, and Okarun shouted here that they were being sewn because of the fabric, so he thought they didn't need clothes, and started taking them off there. Ira commented that if she needed to undress in front of someone, it was okay if Okarun was the one to see it. Momo reached Okarun's shoulder and quickly told the two to continue moving, and they would lure the Pygmies away, so they would target them instead. Even though Okarun didn't understand what was happening yet, he still started running while questioning what Momo meant by luring them to attack. So Momo explained that they should run around and attract their attacks, to which Ira commented if she was an honorable fool. Okarun stared carefully at their surroundings, but said he still couldn't see anything, so how would they lure them? In Okarun's brief pause, the Pygmies tried to hit him with kitchen knives, making him run again. Meanwhile, Ira showed the elegance of her movements while challenging their enemies to hit her. Something glinted in front of Okarun, so Momo shouted that there was an attack coming from 12 o'clock. Because of this, Okarun coolly avoided the flying knives like a professional athlete, and after jumping, he seemed to keep up with Ira's movements. Ira and Momo were amazed and thrilled by him, and after landing on the ground, Momo shouted that he was amazing. She said his physical fitness was next level, to which Okarun nervously replied that this wasn't the time for such things. He explained that he couldn't do this forever, and at this rate, he would surely get cut there. Okarun tried to remove his hand from the floor to stand, but when he tried, he couldn't do it, and it turned out the Pygmies had already managed to sew his hand to the floor. Ira shouted at their side, and when they looked at her, the Pygmies had sewn both her hands to the floor. Other Pygmies started charging while carrying their knife catapults towards them, and it seemed there was nothing they could do about this. They also turned on the gas stove on the culinary tables, which worried the three even more. The creatures aimed their knife catapults at Ira and Okarun, and they were ready to launch them. Deep concern was visible on Ira and Okarun's faces while waiting for their end, but it seemed Momo was still trying to do something. Soon, she suddenly shouted that she had found the skank she was looking for. She teasingly asked the Pygmies what their problem was and why they weren't attacking. Momo said go ahead and hit the table she was holding with her power, and it seemed they couldn't do it because their precious master was there. She said they would never attack in the direction of their master, and she threw the table she was carrying at a wall, and it hit Koki's body solidly, revealing that she had been hiding there using an invisible sheet. And there you have it. So all this time, Koki was hiding on the side. Momo's prediction hit the mark. What will they do with this woman now that they've caught her? Let's wait and see.